Hey there, everybody. Franklin Taggart here with the virtual coffee break. I've got my coffee. Grab your beverage and let's have a chat for just a minute, shall we? This morning I was talking to a friend of mine who is in her 30s, and we were talking a little bit about both career paths and relationships in in your 20s and 30s. And I was just telling her that, in my 20s and 30s, I was married the first time, and I had probably 8 or 9 different jobs in that time frame. And we were just talking a little bit about, it takes some time for some of us to really find a path that works for us. And it took me back to a time when I went to visit my high school guidance counselor. I had taken some kind of a career inventory test. My dad had suggested it. He was a guidance counselor, and so he knew all these different tests and things like that. And I remember going in for the results, and one of the things that I found very interesting was that musician wasn't one of the options as a career on the test. Now, they did have, you could be a music teacher in the public schools, but they didn't actually have musician or artist or actor or creative anything really as a career as a result of the inventory. So the things that came up for me were things like bus driver and garbage man, and I can't remember. I think there were 2 others that I remembered vaguely. One of them was about being like a telephone repairman. The other one might have been, handyman or something like that. But I look back on that, and I know that there are a large number of people, many of whom I've worked with, and the traditional tests don't work very well. And a lot of it is because we have a lot of interests and we're extremely creative. And it's really impossible to tell someone like that exactly what to do. I've got a good friend who's an architect, and he knew that he wanted to be an architect when he was probably around 10 years old. And one of the things that I always remembered was that his path was really well defined. He knew exactly what classes he had to take in high school. He knew exactly what path he had to take in college in terms of the prerequisite classes and the prep classes for the architecture degree. He knew pretty much step by step everything that he needed to take in order to pursue the path that he wanted. And the thing that I found as a musician was that there wasn't one reliable guide for that. It's like everybody was just telling me a bunch of different things that they did, and none of them had done it exactly the same or perfectly. And so when I graduated from college, I had no idea what I was going to do. I wanted a music career, but I had no idea how to have one, even though I had a double degree in music and business. And when I got out of school, I remember being severely depressed for about probably 2 solid months, not knowing what I had just done or what I was about to do. And that was the beginning of, I call it an odyssey, because I think my 20s were very much like an odyssey. There was not any kind of rhyme or reason to how my 20s unfolded. I finished college. I was 24, I think, when I finished college, and I had just gotten married the year before, and I thought I wanted to be a musician, but then after I graduated, I found that I didn't know exactly how to go about that. I wanted to be, at that point, I wasn't a singer-songwriter so much as I was just a guitar player. I wanted to be a session guitar player, and all the sessions were being hired out to other people. So it was one of those things where I just really had to figure it out for myself. And it was a long and winding and weird, long, strange trip, right? In fact, I think I've got an episode called Franklin's Long, Strange Trip. But one of the things that I think is really important to pick up on is that there are some people where the path is, a clear set of stones that lead in a direction that go exactly where they want to go. And then for some of us, it's like being the trailblazer with a machete out in the brush, being the first one and maybe the only one that takes that particular way. And I find that is the case for many creative people that I know, that there are some trial and error and trial and success and just trial and learn kinds of experiences in store for many people who are going to be on a creative path. And what I want to just tell you is that it's not easy all the time, and you have to learn how to kind of trust your own sense of what's right for you and what's not. And you really have to go with your own sense above all other kinds of inputs. And that isn't always easy. There will be people there that are going to be asking you, begging you to take a safer, more predictable, more conventional and traditional route. You can try that for a while, and you're probably going to end up not staying there for very long. And if you do stay there for a long, long time, you'll probably find that it serves to deaden you instead of enliven you. I'm again speaking from experience there. But the other thing that I think is really important is that I feel like that for many of us in the creative realm, there is a lot of experimentation that needs to happen in order for us to really design the path that we want, or the path that feels right. And one of the things that I think we've got to let go of is the idea that there is this overarching blueprint plan for your life, because the blueprint plan for a creative person's life probably isn't going to fold into a square. I don't think it's even going to be on a sheet of paper. It's like it's not something that you can actually probably design very effectively. But you will find your way. I believe that with all my heart. You'll find the ways that work for you. And what I've found is that there are some people that go that route for quite a good while. And then they really discover that, they've got an opportunity in an area where they can work full time for somebody else, and it feels like the right thing to do. And they do it and they're happy, right? So if you're in a creative realm in terms of your career, in terms of the things that you want to do with your life, just keep in mind that there's going to be some experimentation that's involved. There's not going to be any other one person that can specifically say, this is the way that you should go, because quite honestly, they can't know for sure that that's the case for you. It is risky, and what I would encourage you to think about is not so much finding people to tell you what to do, but finding people who are going to hold the space for you to do what you need to do. And for me, I've got a handful of friends that are, I've got one group of friends that are kind of all consultants and coaches that I lean on weekly to get, support in a direction that I need. And then there's another group of people that I hang out with online that we're all, learning about marketing, and we're learning about different, types of tools and techniques and tactics, and we're all trying it out and kind of giving each other support and ideas in those areas. So I wouldn't suggest that you do everything that you do in complete isolation. I think it's really good to have a support network around you. And even that is not something that I can recommend as far as I can't prescribe who you should have. on your advisory committee. However, I do think that it's a good idea to have one. And maybe it's as much as finding a couple or three other people who are doing something similar to what appeals to you, and asking them if they would just, be willing to get together with some frequency to just talk through what's going on, and to, create some kind of a feedback loop or feedback mechanism for yourself, just so that you're not, bobbing around on the water, being, you're already going to be blown by the wind. I just don't want you to be completely, on your own out in the world. What I offer in my coaching is that kind of support. And so if you're interested in working in a more formal kind of direction, coaching may be something that you'd want to consider. Now, I do offer a free first session called Your Best Next Step Call. It's the first session for anyone. I don't have a charge for. And the main thing that I really want to do is to find out what are the specific ways that I can be helpful. And if I'm not able to be helpful, what are the resources that I can hook you up with so that you can become more successful in the area that you want. So that's all I got for today on the coffee break. A lot to think about, but I was just remembering back, in my 20s and 30s, just feeling, pretty tossed around. But I ended up in a lot of really great places, learning a lot of really great things that have created a whole bunch of opportunities now that I could have never, ever predicted for myself. So I'm just going to tell you, learn whatever you can, wherever you land, and make the most out of all of the situations that you find yourself in. And your path will emerge as you do that. So have a good one, whatever it is where you are. I'll be back again tomorrow with another coffee break. And thanks as always for your time and your attention. So long.